Oh my goodness. All right, so before we get into dependencies, libraries, you know, and how software talk to each other, let's first have a sneak, not a sneak, a preview of what we did last time. So let me just open the full stack app we built last time. It was called what? Auth demo. Okay, let me just drag it to the desktop. Oh, that's going to take a while. I should have done this long time ago. Let me just open it in VS Code. And now my machine is frozen. Okay. Desmond, how are you doing, sir? Wayne, I see you. KJ, landing pad clear. Sam Delta, I see you. So let's open the project we worked on last time. So I'll say open folder. I'll go to disk E and go to auth demo. Where is it? Self.computer science, auth demo, and we'll open it. So let's run this project. So I'll open my terminal, and then inside the terminal, let me change this to CMD. I don't know why it keeps, oh my goodness. Let me see if I can just change these settings. Configure terminal settings. Default. Okay, it is not happening here. All right. Okay, I can't find the default, so let me just change it here to CMD. I'll close the PowerShell one. So inside CMD, I'm going to say cd frontend. Let's start with the frontend, and inside the frontend, I'm going to do npm install. npm. Why am I doing nppm? nppm install. So that is done. I'm going to say npm run dev. Missing script. What do you mean? W2 decode frontend. Oh, I'm supposed to be inside frontend. Now I need you to pay attention to these errors that we get here. So I need to be inside frontend folder. Yeah, I see where the issue is. So let me just clean up first. So, inside frontend, we have a duplicate file. So I'll delete these, and then I'll go inside here. I'll cut everything, paste it there. We don't need that. So let's try that one more time. npm install. Npm install is working. So we'll open another terminal. Oh my goodness, I do not want you. Is there a CMD? So here I'll cd into backend, and then first and foremost I will configure my virtual environment. Okay, remember we said when you're working with any Python project, the first step is to always configure your virtual environment, and you can do that in 3 steps. So number 1 is you say Python -m venv, and then you give your virtual environment a name. We can give it any name. I can even pick somebody here, Sam. So we'll call our environment Sam, or Delta sounds nice, Delta. Python was not found. Run without arguments installed from Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I do not have Python. My goodness. Okay, I don't have Python. Let me install Python. This is actually, I moved to Windows. If you guys noticed, I moved to Windows from Linux. That's why I'm having issues here. The main purpose for moving to Windows was because Linux does not support video editing tools like Premiere Pro, After Effects. Ubuntu does not support those. Oh, you want me to zoom in? Okay, I'll zoom in. Ubuntu does not support those applications, so that's why I moved to Windows. However, I still have my my MacBook, so I'm using that primarily for development. Mac is like, it's still Linux in a way. It's Unix actually. Who's calling me right now? My goodness. So Python is installed. It's downloaded. Let's go ahead and install it. Icon, I see you've landed. We're just getting started. I'm installing Python. In case you're wondering where we are at, don't get lost. Setup was successful, so we say close. Now Python is installed. Let's try again. Python. Oh, I need to restart my terminal, so I'll just duplicate this terminal. Come on, man, can't you just open CMD once? Okay. All right. And not npm Python, my goodness, Python. Okay, what is not happening here? CMD Python. Okay, cool. Exit. So Python is installed, but I'll have to restart my VS Code for the for Python to actually for the file, open folder. I'll go to desktop. It wasn't in desktop, it was in local disk E. In here, auth demo. Alright, so I change this to CMD, and then we cd into front end. Cd front end, npm run dev, allow. All right, so our front end is running here. Now let's go ahead and run our back end. So I will add another terminal here, command prompt, and then I'll cd into back end, and then I'll activate my virtual environment. So there's one that is already here. I'm going to delete it since I switched my operating system. So here I'm going to say Python. First, let me confirm it's working. Okay, it's working. Okay. Exit. So I'm going to say Python, Python -m venv, and then we give ours a name, Delta. Let me zoom in. I forgot. Some, I hope you can see it clearly here. So we are calling our virtual environment Delta. Now, after we've configured the virtual environment, we need to go in and install our requirements, and our requirements are in here. So this is why we are here today. We want to look at these and try and understand what these are. So I'm going to say pip install -r requirements.txt. I will give it a second. So the learning objectives for this class is by the end of the lesson, you should be able to define what a library is and what a dependency is. You should be able to explain the role of a package manager. What is a package manager? What is its significance in our project? You should be able to understand semantic versioning and version pinning, which basically is just another term for using specific versions of a library. We'll also look at dependency trees. Remember in a previous class we talked about knowledge dependency tree. Here we are talking about libraries or packages dependency trees and transitive dependencies. A library depends on another library that you have to call from somewhere else. You need to be able to identify and resolve common dependency errors, and you need to be able to evaluate third-party libraries. Understand this is a third-party library and this is an inbuilt library. So our packages are installed. Let's go ahead and run this project. Now, how do we run our backend? Let me see the readme if it has any instructions. What was it? Fast dev. It wasn't. What was it? Python. Oh my goodness. I have installed packages globally. I forgot to activate my virtual environment. So, God. Let me look at a reference on how to undo that. I forgot to activate the virtual environment and I ended up doing the one thing I came here to tell you not to do. Okay. So let's try and uninstall the packages again. Say yes. Say yes. Oh, I forgot to put -y. Right. So let's go ahead and activate our virtual environment. So we're going to say the script to activate is found here. This script, this one right here, is what you're looking for. So I can just copy the path and paste it there. Yeah, let me just do this scripts since I'm already inside. Scripts oh no, that's supposed to be delta. Let's try. Okay, so our virtual environment is active as shown here. So let's go ahead and install our requirements. CLS, I keep forgetting I'm no longer on Linux. So instead of uninstall, it will be pip install requirements.txt. I41 522, welcome. All right, so once that is done, let's go ahead and run our backend. Python main.py. That did nothing. Now there's a command for running fast API. I have forgotten, so I'll just go to the documentation. Fast API, then fast API. Looking for the documentation or get started. Where is it? Where's the command? Fast API dev. Oh, okay, that's the command. So I'll come here and say fast API dev. Didn't I install fast API? My goodness, pip install fast API. So pay attention to again this error. I'm trying to run this command called fast API dev, but the error is to use the fast API command, please install fast API standard, and it suggested the command here. So we're just going to copy this, and you can read through the error and find out what the error means, but you can just copy that, paste it there. Pretty sure cmd. Okay, so in the meantime we can confirm if our front end is running. So I'll just long press Control and then I'll click here, and then yeah, our front end is running and working okay. although this is not the auth demo we created. Oh yeah, we created other pages. So we said, for example, if you go to login, you'll see the login page. What happened to our login page? Is it supposed to be users login? No. Okay, we'll confirm where that is. Module not found, cannot resolve Axios. You see now, oh yeah, this is the other error I wanted us to talk about. Module cannot be found. So let's just go ahead and confirm if the backend is running first. Let's see. Okay, so let's try again. And now our backend is running here. Okay, so there's really nothing interesting here. It's just hello, API is up and running, and our frontend of course has 1,000 issues. So now let's talk about dependencies or dependency or packages. So if you want to build an application that tells you the time, if I just open the Python interpreter, Python interpreter right here, let me just zoom in. So for example, assuming I want to print time, okay, I want to print time. So I would say something like the time, and then I'll say something like now dot date time now, date time dot now. Then I'll do that. Now date time now. What is it I'm doing wrong? My goodness. Date time now. So the error is name error. Name now is not defined. Did you mean whatever that is, pow or whatever? But notice what happens when I start with this command right here. So I'll say import date time from where is it from? From date time. Is it from date time? Yes, from date time. From, oh my goodness, it's from date time, import date time, and then enter, and then I will repeat the same command, this one right here, and then I'll hit enter. The time now, date time dot now is not defined. What is it I'm not typing? Oh my goodness. Okay, it's my bad. So instead of using the Python interpreter, let me just use a code editor. It's more cleaner. I think I'm just running into errors here. So right here in our project, we are going to create another folder, or let's just open a whole new project. So inside desktop, I'm going to create another folder, and this one I'm going to call it dependencies, and then I'll go to VS Code, open folder, desktop, dependencies, select. All right, so I'll open the terminal. All right, and then inside here I'll start with a file. I'll say main.py, and then inside main.py we want just to have a we want to refresh our minds on how to run Python code. So I'll do something like name equals to delta, and then at the bottom here we want to print name. All right, so let's run our code. We'll say Python main.py, and then we are getting the name is delta. Let me just zoom in one more time, like so. All right, so just the normal Python stuff. We create a variable, and then we store this string in that variable, and then we print that variable. Nothing fancy. Let's assuming we have a list of food. Okay, so and here I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to generate a list of food for me. So I'm going to, did I type ChatGPT? Hat GPT. What is that? ChatGPT. and then I'll say generate a list of foods and nutrients. Generate a dictionary. This is supposed to be a dictionary because we're in Python. A dictionary of let's say, for example, 150 foods. That's quite a very big list. Let's see. So we want to see if we can calculate the time the code takes to go through this entire list and, you know, find you whatever it is you're looking for in the list. So yeah, if you're joining us, welcome. We haven't really gone far, so you're not lost. You're still there. What we've done is we've just created a Python file here, and then we've written a variable and, you know, execute, or, you know, we did print that variable. The other part was also I don't know where it went. Okay, we'll just go back to that. Yeah, so I'll copy this, I'll paste it in our code right here, and then I'll say foods, nutrients. So I want to print this thing. I want to print the foods, but I want to loop through. So at the bottom here, I'm going to say for food item in food nutrients, and then I'll hit enter. So let me run this code, and as you can see, we are just printing the food items in that list. So we have brown rice, fiber, magnesium, vitamin C, folate, manganese, and all that. So we're just printing. Now if you want to print the time, for example, when the project starts, we want to, let me just minimize this. So we want to start counting the time here. Okay, not really counting. We want to get the time here, and then we get the time here, so that we get the amount of time it takes for the code, for the computer to run this code. So how you will do that, you will need to use what you call an inbuilt library, or an inbuilt okay, let's just call it library. So the inbuilt library in Python is what you call the datetime library. So here I will say from datetime import datetime, and then right here at the top of the list, before the code does anything, we are going to get the time. So we'll say start time equals to, and then we'll say datetime.now. Okay, so this is just capturing the current time before anything else is done. And then here we are going to calculate the end time. So we'll say end time equals to date.now. Now, how do we calculate the time it has taken for this project to run? We have the end time and we have the start time. We can calculate the time taken. So at the bottom we can say time taken equals to end time plus start time, and then we want to print the time taken. So we'll print the time taken right here. Okay, again, let's go through our code and try to understand what's happening. Now the Python interpreter, it's an interpreter. That means it executes your code line by line. Okay, it goes line by line executing the instructions. So right here it will start from the first line. We are importing a library, an internal, this is supposed to be from, not from, it's supposed to be from. This is what we call an internal library, or a library that the interpreter comes packaged with. So you don't need to install anything. You don't need to say pip install datetime. You just say from datetime import datetime, and then we start calculating the time. You know, like it's like when somebody wants to run and they want you to time them. So before they even take the first step, you press the start button. So we start the time, and then we have our list of food here, which is 150 foods, and then we have a loop that goes through the entire record of food. And then once it's done going through the entire record, we capture the time that, you know, you're done. This is the end line, capture the time. And then we come here and we find the difference, okay? The difference between the end time and the start time. And then we print whatever we found. So let's go ahead and run our code and see if everything is working okay. And as you can see, if we just enlarge this, so I'm looking at something at the okay, oh, cool. So right here it says time taken to execute is 0.00. This is microseconds, not milliseconds. This is, I think, microseconds, 38, 36. Okay, so we have imported an inbuilt library right here, and we've used it in our code. What if we don't import this thing? What if we just uncomment, okay, not uncomment, but what if we just comment it out and then we run our code again? If we run our code, you'll see date time, name error, name date time is not defined. Python does not know where are you getting this date time. Okay, now remember, when you are starting, I told you the easiest way to understand any language is to identify two sets of words. Number one, identify the words that the interpreter came with. Okay, number two, identify the words that you have added to the code. Okay, so something like print here, the interpreter came with, but you're not importing from a library that the interpreter came with. So the interpreter itself comes with libraries. Okay, something like end time is what we have defined ourselves. So if I refer to end time here, of course the code knows what I'm talking about because I picked it up here. Okay, so that is why we have this here, import date time from date time. So let's go ahead and print when it starts. So here we want to print starting the program, and then we want to capture the time it takes. So here, let me just format this. So I'll say format, and then I'll capture the start time. So I'll just copy this and paste it down here so that we capture when the time stopped. So we'll say end time. All right, everything looks good. Let's run our code again. Python main.py. So if we scroll to the top, you can see starting the program at 2026 0408 2042. You know, it even gives you the is it milliseconds, microseconds, I can't remember. And then we come here, we also capture when the program was done. 328750, this is 32832606, and then we're calculating the time it has taken for this project to run. So what if we want something else? What if, for example, we want to what else can we do with this code? What if, for example, we want to turn this into JSON? Now remember, right now whatever is being printed in the browser is just, you know, no, like text. Okay, it's not formatted in any way. If you remember from our office hours, we said the work of the backend is to make data available in a format called JSON. So what if we want to convert this into JSON? So we will need another library to do that. Python itself does not come with an inbuilt tool to convert normal text to JSON. So let's see how to do that. So we are going to install a dependency. I'm trying to find my notes. So that I don't mess. Yeah, right here. So here we are going to say import JSON. Then in our code, we're going to say right at the bottom, you're going to say JSON data, JSON dumps food nutrients indent for no, that looks like a little too much information. JSON.dumps.data. So you just want to print now whatever it is we've converted to JSON. All right, so let's go ahead and print it. So as you can see, we have two sets of data here. At the top, we have our data that was printed in, you know, just text, nothing. It is not formatted in any way. And then we have our data that is formatted in JSON. Now you see this is something I can give to the front end for them to work on. So that is the purpose of this dependency right here, import JSON. So if you do remove this, if you remove this, let's just delete it, and then we run our code again. As you can see, it executed the code up to this part. This proves, this shows you what I meant when I said Python executes your code line by line. So it ran our code successfully up to this part. Okay, print time taken to execute. Time taken to execute. You see, up to this point, everything worked okay up to this point, and then we got an error here. So it's saying name error, name JSON is not defined. Did you forget to import JSON? So it was, gracious enough to tell you where the issue is. So we can just go back here and say import JSON. Now this also tells you, this also gives you some very nice insight on how to debug. Now debugging is when you get an error, you read the error and try to find out where the issue is. So right now, if I got this error, it says that JSON, name error JSON is not defined, and then did you forget to import JSON? This gives me a clue of what the problem is with my code, so I can go ahead and fix it. I hope that is a little bit clear. Alright, so these are what you call internal packages. They are packages that the Python interpreter comes with. You don't need to do like pip install JSON or pip install datetime. These ones Python will understand automatically. But what of external libraries that the code did not come with? Okay, so a very good example of such a library is Fast API, because Python itself does not come with Fast API. So going back to our backend and frontend folder, so I'll just open folder here, auth demo, not that one, this one right here. So I'll say auth demo. Alright, so inside here we'll go to backend, cd backend, and then right here, without doing anything else, we are going to say Python main.py, and then as you can see, we are getting error, module not found, no module named Fast API. Okay, this one right here. So you can go ahead and install that module that is missing, and then try to run the code again, see what the issue is. But that is a lot of guesswork, and you don't want guesswork. So whenever you have packages like what I showed you earlier with JSON and datetime, you always create a folder, a file, not a folder, a file called requirements.txt. The purpose of this file will be to keep track of all the dependencies you use in your code. So let me just try to draw here. I had a little bit of flu, so I took cetirizine. Now I'm struggling with sleep while I'm talking. It's doing me crazy stuff. Anyway, what was I saying? So let's assume you're building a project, like a robot that cleans your house when you're not there. So robot that cleans. No, let's not do that. Let's say, for example, you're building chakula. All right, and the function for chakula is very simple. So this is a function, chakula, and functions are always represented as this in programming. So what is the input to this function? Number one, we need to get the time. Number two, we need to get the food. We need to get the foods or suggested foods, or we can just get the food. And then the third thing we need to get dietary goals. What else do we need to get? We also need to get the budget, okay, for this user, so that we can be able to accurately suggest a meal for this user. So what is the output of this function? The output of this function will be a meal suggestion. Okay, this is meal suggestion. So this will be the output of our function. Again, I said the best way to understand a function is to divide it into 3 parts: the input, the wizard, the what, the name can't come. Okay, what am I even saying? The name is not naming. And then we have the inputs here. So these will go into our function, all right, and give us an output. Let me just try to get creative here. No, okay. So for us to get the time, we need a dependency that can get us that time. Okay, like I have shown you with the first example, if you want to print time in Python, you cannot just say time.now or datetime.now. You have to install a dependency, or you have to use a dependency. So what dependencies do we need? We need datetime. So I'll just do this. We need datetime. All right. Apart from datetime, what else do we need? We might need a library that helps us calculate, like this budget here. We need something that can calculate the budget. So if a user's budget for a day is 200 shillings and the food we are trying to suggest, the time is dinner or breakfast, we want to, for example, if somebody can spend 200 shillings on foods, on food, oh my goodness, I think I need coffee, on food per day, we can divide this into lunch, breakfast and supper. So let's do this. Let's just do it right here. So assuming the user has 200 shillings or $200, we want to say, for example, $10 is for breakfast, and then we have lunch, which might be lunch, we are remaining with 190, so we can say it's $90. And then we have dinner is $100. So we need some sort of a more intelligent solution to calculate these values here. So for that, we will need another library called math. Okay, Python has a library called math, so we need math. All right, so our function is not yet complete because here we are getting a list of foods, dietary goals, budget and time. Okay, but if you've been following what I said about Chakula, is the food comes from what you call a knowledge base. Like there's an external library or dependency where we get our food. We don't get our food is not hard coded. You cannot hard code food because there are just so many to hard code them. So we get our food from another API. So we can put that API at the top here, or we can just put it here. Okay, so you see our food is not just coming from our own code or from the database. It's coming from another service, and that service we can represent it with this. So we can say this is the food knowledge base. So we can say food knowledge base. All right, like so. Why are you not working? Like so. All right, so as you can see here, we are just the complexity is growing. It's becoming bigger because a lot of services need to work together for this meal suggestion to work. Okay, and this is everything here is what we call dependency. Okay, for your project to work, all these dependencies are needed, but some of these dependencies are external services, some of them are inbuilt libraries, and some of them are libraries that modules, we call them modules, that you've built yourself. Okay, you sat down, you wrote the code, and then you're importing that code into another file you need to work with. Let me just duplicate this arrow right here, like so. So all these are what we call dependencies. It's what our function needs to work. They can be as many as possible, as many as 10, as many as 11. For example, while we suggest our meal here, we don't want to just suggest our meal. Once we get a meal suggestion, we might want to pass it through our doctor. Okay, so we have our AI doctor here, which basically checks, is this meal suitable for this person? This person is diabetic, or this person has an allergy. So is the food suitable for that person? So we can say this is our AI doctor. Like so. Where is the align? Okay. All right. So this is our AI doctor. Before the food gets to the user, the AI doctor has to have a look at the food. If it does not, if it's not okay for the user, the AI doctor will send it back to the function, and then the function will have to generate a whole new food for that user. I hope now the concept of dependencies and libraries is becoming a little bit clearer. So now let's look at an example of an external dependency in our code. And the external dependency we talked about is Fast API in our case. So here I'm going to activate my virtual environment. So that should be scripts. Oh my goodness, can't I just copy paste this thing? So let me just say copy path, paste it here. Not helpful. So it's inside Delta, our virtual environment, inside scripts, and then we want to run the script activate Delta scripts. Oh my goodness, what am I to activate? The system cannot find the path specified. It's right there. Scripts, activate. Okay, what is it I'm missing? Oh, this is supposed to be that. Okay. I see where the issue is. So we have activated our virtual environment. So once we have activated our virtual environment, if you look at the code very well, if you look at main.py, you'll see we are importing quite a lot of things here. We are importing Fast API, HTTP, depends, blah, blah, all these things. We're importing all these other things, date time delta, GWT, base model. And inside our requirements.txt, you see we have Fast API. Now pay attention to this. Here we have Fast API, but right here we are importing other things that are not defined inside the requirements.txt. Okay, this is now what you call what is the name? I have to remind myself. My goodness, I have to remind myself. Transitive. Is it transitive? Okay, I can't get it, but I think it's what you call transitive. Transitive is when you're installing one package, okay, or one dependency, and then that one dependency has other dependencies that, for it to work effectively, it needs those other dependencies. So in your requirements.txt, you'll just define one dependency like we've done here, but inside your code, you'll find out that you're using more than one dependency, as we have shown here. So we are importing a couple of things, like for example here, cause middleware, whatever that is, this one right here, and then we jump to Pydantic. Let's see if we have Pydantic here. It's right here, Pydantic. This is the library we are importing, and so on and so forth. So for your Fast API to work, for that command Fast API dev to work, you need to have all this dependency installed on your project. So this number here, you see, it's what you call the version. So you're specifying what version of Fast API do you want. Now, where do you get the version? Each language has its own, we call, repository that stores the libraries that that language needs. So if you're working in Python, for example, the library is called PyPy. this one right here. Okay, so this just stores a list of Python libraries. So if I say fast API, I can see I have fast API right here. Okay, and you can read through the documentation, see what it means. You can even look at the people using this extension right here. You can look at how many folks they have. You can look at the number of issues. This is actually also a nice way for you to participate in open source project, because I think Fast API is open source. So you can look at issues here. You come at the issues section, you look at anything you can handle. For example, if you see this one, mounting sub applications and API router, but let's not jump into that. So PyPy is where you get all your Python libraries. We have libraries that range from simple weather libraries, simple math libraries, to things as complex as data science. So if we say, for example, NumPy, and NumPy is just a library that is used in data science. As you can see, it's right here, and you can read through the documentation, find out what it's about. They have the documentation here. They have the source code. They have the website. Things like, for example, if you want to do advanced mathematics, you can see things like graphite math, and so on and so forth. You can just feel, like you want to browse around. You can just click on that, click on this, browse other projects. Where is it? We can filter by topics. Let's see, communication. Python emoji. Yeah, if you want emojis in your Python, you can use a library like this one. Telnet server. And there are so many. But what if you're using JavaScript? Again, JavaScript has its own website where you can get all these libraries. What is the name of the website? I have forgotten. NPM. Yeah, it's called NPM. So if you go into NPM, you can search for something like, for example, let me see, does Vue.js have a library? Yeah, these are just libraries to work with Vue.js. Let's try, for example, React. Yeah, and React is right here. So this is a library, a JavaScript library. So again, as you can see, it looks pretty much the same as PyPy in terms of structure. So you have the library itself, you have the code, you have dependencies, you even have an explanation of how to use it, like right here, and then you have a link to the documentation. There's quite a few. You can browse something like Axios. So again, as you can see here, Axios is just a library that helps you communicate inside from your JavaScript code. You can use it to communicate outside or with your backend, and so on and so forth. So these are what you call registries, or can you call them dependency registries? But they're just registries. It's somewhere you store your libraries, or somebody else built a library, they put it up there. So inside your project, when you run npm install, when you go to cd frontend, and then you say npm install. So what's happening here is npm is going to the registry, which is this one right here. It's going to npmjs.com. And it's looking for that specific library that you have defined in your code. Let's try Axios, for example. So we'll go to our project and we'll say npm install Axios. Yeah, again, it takes quite a few minutes because it's going to the registry in the cloud and it's downloading that library that you want. Now, a library is just a collection of files. A library is something like this. Okay, it's just a collection of files and everything that the library itself needs. So that is why it's important, before you add any library to your project, it's always important to understand the library I'm trying to add, is it well maintained? So if I look at these Axios, for example, I can see here that it was published an hour ago. So that means it's very active. I can scroll down and look at look at what? I'm trying to look at contributors. So if you don't find the contributor list here, you can go to the source code repository, this one right here. You can go to it. And then right here, you can scroll down to the contributors. And as you can see, it has 563 contributors, okay? So, there are chances that this is a robust library. It won't fail you anytime soon. Yeah, so before you add any library, you have to ask yourself, the library I'm trying to use, is it well maintained? Does it have a good rating? When was the last time an update was released? And there's a library for almost anything you can do in JavaScript. However, for example, if I want to find animation libraries in JavaScript, so let me go to ChatGPT and say, what animation libraries for JavaScript? What animation? So we have Anime.js, Velocity.js. Now let's find out between these libraries which one is well maintained, has a good contributor list, and so on and so forth. So we start with anime.js. So I'll come to npm. I'll say anime.js. I can see here it's just a library that helps you animate. So when you go to a browser like Soma Stories, for example, let me log out. So if you go to this one and look at this, for example, this is animated. You see this? This is animated. That is a library that helps us do that is something like anime.js. So we'll look at anime.js. We'll open a new tab, and in the new tab you are going to look at Framer Motion. Let's try this Framer Motion. So we'll type here Framer Motion. Let's see if it's available. Framer. Let me try Framer only. Okay, I can't find it there. So it's probably a library that is managed by somebody else. So let's look at another library. GSAP, whatever that means. So you look at GSAP. GSAP. Yeah. So this one was updated 4 months ago, but Anime.js was updated 2 months ago. That already gives you a clear picture of which one is actively maintained. This one has 599,000 downloads. This one has 2 million downloads. Okay, so again, the one with more downloads tells you that if you get wait a minute, this is the one with more downloads tells you that it has a huge community behind it. So if you get stuck, it's easier for you to get help because there are a lot of people using that library. Okay, so let's look at contributors. We'll go to the source code right here, and the GSAP has how many contributors? Only 2. My goodness. Okay, let's look at Anime.js. How many contributors? So we'll go to this, and it has 53 contributors, which is actually weird because it has far much fewer, it has fewer downloads. But yeah, so these are some of the things you look at when you're trying to work with any library. You look at, is it well maintained? How soon are updates? How many people are using it? What is the feedback? What is the general feedback for using that specific tool? And questions like that. That helps you, it helps you avoid working with a library that is not, like for example, not widely used, because if you get stuck, you're on your own. Nobody else is using that library, so nobody else will come to help you. and things like that. I forgot to plug in my phone. Let me do that. All right, so now back to our full stack application. Let me just run this front end. So that is npm run dev. So inside our full stack application, we have this folder called package.json. It's a very, very important folder. Pay attention to it. Let me just bring you up to speed. So there's this folder called package.json. This folder keeps a track of all the dependencies that you use in your project. So if I'm working with somebody else in another country on the same project, they also need to know what dependencies does this project need to run, okay? And that is the work of package.js. So we have the dependency sections, a dependency section, which basically shows you that this project depends on Axios, Next, React, and React DOM. And then we have this other thing called dev dependencies. Dev dependencies are just dependencies that you use locally, but you don't use on the production code. More on that later. And then we have scripts, but of importance here is the dependencies section. And then we have another file called package.lock.json. So what package.lock.json does, it keeps track of the specific version you're running, and it also keeps track of transient dependency. Like for example, if I'm installing this Axios here, what else does it need? What else does Axios depend on for it to work okay? Now that information is stored inside this package.lock.json. So normally this package is in the source code. On GitHub, if you go, you'll see this file. It just makes sure that you and any other developer working on that project are working with the same version of your dependencies. Now when I say version, I mean this thing right here. So this is the major version. This is an update that was added, and this signifies a patch, like fixing a small bug, and so on and so forth. But how does Python handle dependencies? Python handles dependencies a little bit differently. Python does not know how to separate between your development and your production dependencies. That is why we are using a virtual environment, okay? Python also stores dependencies inside requirements.txt, like we've seen here. And this is basically a version. So we want to use an exact version. The exact version in this case being 0.42.0. That is the exact version we want to use, and so on and so forth. So when we do npm install, or when we say pip install requirements.txt, what is that pip and what is that npm? These are what we call package managers. They just help us manage our packages. So for example, if I want to run this project, I'll just say pip install requirements.txt, and all the dependencies will be installed on my machine. I don't have to go and start installing one by one. So that is what we call package managers. They just help us manage our packages. Yeah, I think that's it. Anything else I'm leaving out in this class? Yeah, so we've talked about package managers. We've talked about versions. We've said that this is the major version. This is, a feature was added, and this is I zoom in. Okay, let me zoom in. And this is a bug fix. Okay, bug fix is when there's an error and then they fix that bug. We've also said that a package essentially is just a bunch of files. Okay, just the same way you have your front end and back end here, a package is essentially a bunch of files. And you can confirm that. You see this first API here. If we go to backend and we go to Delta inside our virtual environment, and we go to, where is it? We go to libraries, lib, and then we go to site packages. You'll see we have fast API right here. This one, fast API. And if you open fast API, as you can see, it's just a bunch of Python code. Okay, like shown here. If you go to this, you can just scroll down. So it's just a bunch of files, And as you can see, even in this one called encoders, we are also importing datetime right here. And we're also importing data classes. More on that later. And we're importing other things that the library itself will need to call outside or externally to get the libraries that it needs, and so on and so forth. So if you look at another library, let's go back to requirements.txt. If you go back to requirements.txt, like this one, uvicon right here, you can go into lib site packages. You have uvicon right here. Is that the correct uvicon? And as you can see, it's just a bunch of files. So we have installer, metadata, record, requested. That is actually not the uvicon I expected. This one right here is what I expected. So as you can see, we have uvicon here. It has files, config, we have log levels, we have configurations here. You have things like logging, trace log level 5, blah blah. Here's a class. There's quite a lot of interesting stuff in there. You can play around it. Try to ask ChatGPT what is the, this one, Google Copilot. You can ask it what's the essence of this, what is the work of this function, what is the input, and output of this function, something like this, format message, I think that's it for this class. Unless there is any other question, I think we'll end it there. I took some flu medication. They are really, they are giving my body a beating, for lack of a better word. I'll see you tomorrow for our office hours. I haven't really figured out what we should cover in the office hours tomorrow. If you have any idea of what like if you think there's something we've missed that will be important for us to go back and talk about, just share in the newly created WhatsApp channel, or you can share on Discord, so that we can talk about it tomorrow in tomorrow's class. Wait, tomorrow is Thursday. Yes, we have office hours tomorrow. That's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.